Pablo Meza, who is, of course, a very, very popular Pokemon player from Mexico.
Oh yeah, Pablo is the man, as we've seen him on the stage and at the desk. Knows his Pokemon inside and out and has been performing extraordinarily well here.
He's going to be playing the Mew, I believe. I was chatting to Pablo very briefly yesterday, bumped into him in the hall. Very much a fan of this Mew deck list, and it is, as we talked about up on the stage a moment ago, it is the double turbo energy build of Mew. None of this fusion energy, and it looks like we're up against Gardevoir here with Pedro Pertusi. One route, one curlier in the prizes. Nothing amazing.
Wow, this is the LATAM battle of the bests right here. Two phenomenal players here trying to put the Latin America team on the top, and it's going to be a very exciting matchup, as we've seen before that Pablo has had success in this matchup. I believe taking down Robin Schultz on that last round there, so I'm trying to do that once more.
Yeah, it's always nice. If you can beat Gardevoir one round, play it the next round, you get a little bit of confidence, but we are going, and it's actually a double Mew start. Pablo with his Mew V and Pedro with that Mew from Celebrations, and it's immediately a turn one battle VIP pass from Pablo. This is a good start.
Yeah, this is what you're looking for here to start things off. Going to have access to plenty of cards in this first go of things. And starting off with that Mew, of course, you have that free retreat, going to be able to float around, but not really any pressure in these opening stages of the game. So nice to have a little bit of versatility.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And we see the first deck check here, where it's always nice to kind of take that first check. And we do see, and you know, some newer viewers who haven't played the game much might be thinking, well, why are they looking through their deck so much in these early searches? Of course, 6 random cards from your deck do get put down as prize cards, which essentially means you're missing 6 cards in your deck until you draw them as prizes by knocking out Pokemon. That means you really need to know what you got access to and what you don't. But there's no mucking about from Pablo here. It looks like we're going to see treble Genesect turn 1, and that is going to be a lot of cards being drawn very quickly.
Yeah, this is what you're looking for, as we also see the Ultra Ball to thin the hand down. And guess what? There is a Forest Seal Stone in the hand, too. So plenty of access to great cards over the course of this turn. And generally no need to use the Forest Seal Stone. Could play it down still, just to make sure that you don't walk into a judge and not find the right cards. But we could definitely see a lot of cards drawn from Fusion Strike's system now. Yeah,
love that. It's one of the most ridiculous... one of the most ridiculous abilities we've seen. You get to draw until you've got a number of cards in hand equal to the number of Fusion Strike Pokemon you've got in play. So you get a full 6 Fusion Strike Pokemon out, you're drawing until you've got 6 cards in hand, potentially 4 times during your turn. It is absurd. You know, it's not often, but you can draw 24 cards in one turn.
Wow. Yeah, look at that. That is a pretty solid opener there. Even has potential to lock in that judge. There's a path to the peak. There's so many things going on that side. And Pedro's going to try their best impression there, starting off with the Battle VIP pass of their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be Rolt City here. Of course, it is worth pointing out we have got a Mewtwo V Union version of the deck from Pedro here. So that is going to be something we've not really seen coming out on the stream so far today. But we do have, you know, it's your classic Gardevoir. But then we've also got this Mewtwo V Union that we can work towards for the late game. Now, maybe a Radiant Greninja, always good for drawing cards, but the real priority is going to be routes. And actually, starting off with Mew, being able to use that Mysterious Tail ability, that's kind of cool, honestly.
Yeah, this has been a fun inclusion in the deck. Just the potential to search out Psychic Pokemon. It's so easy to do with this deck, and you don't really mind paying that retreat, getting this Pokemon into the active spot, and then looking for these item cards. There's so many that you can find at the right time. Of course, Battle VIP Pass is one of those you want to find in the openers, but Level Ball, Ultra Ball, all these ways to search out Pokemon and eventually work towards refinement is what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. That refinement's such a good ability there on that Curlier. Lets you just draw a bunch of cards continually. And that is always nice when you get to do that. So we've got the double routes, we've got the energy on the Mew to help retreat. Oh, we actually see a Defiant Band, one of those new cards we've not seen much. Oh, and we see a Professor's Research, and that does seem to have dropped one of the 4 parts of Mewtwo V Union into the discard. Remembering, of course, that the V Union can only be played from the discard when all 4 parts are in there.
Yep, we see 1 so far, so trying to work towards the rest of them throughout the rest of this game here, and it's pretty easy to get them into the discard pile once you find them in your hand, and that tends to be the tricky part. But discarding them through ways with refinement is very simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, that Curlier, you've got to discard a card to draw to. And I think that's one of the reasons, other than just the psychicness of it, it's one of the reasons why people are trying to, play this Mewtwo V Union with the Gardevoir list, because you've got that natural discard anyway. It's so much easier than it is in most decks to, really get that V-Union into the discard. And it looks like we've actually seen there's another Battle VIP pass being played by Pedro here.
Oh, yes.
What a start.
Yeah, excellent here. We're going to search out all of these Pokemon. And that's about as good as it gets here, with 3 Ralts potentially going to be drawing tons of cards next turn.
And, one of the good things is if Pablo's going to be taking out those routes, it's going to be one at a time with boss's orders. This isn't one of those decks that's going to be playing Radiant Greninja and potentially going after multiple, although you do have the Manaphy down there as well. It is, you KO the Manaphy, and the Manaphy doesn't really matter in this matchup so much. It's a sacrificial lamb, so to speak. So I love what Pedro's done here. Knows that it's going to take a couple turns to set up. So you're just taking a couple turns to set up. Pablo, however, we've got this Ultra Ball straight away. Pablo wants his deck to go off quick.
Yes, and surely enough, we'll be able to do just that. Everything's just about guaranteed at this stage. We see that there is the Judge, of course, but with the Forest Sealstone, going to have access to potentially finding whatever piece is missing, whether it be finding the Pokemon here, which we should see from the Ultra Ball, but the double turbo energies can be tricky at times.
Yeah, you're only allowed to play 4 of them, and it's hard to really search them out. So you're really just using a Fusion Strike system and hoping you draw into them, which it is a really good ability. You usually do, but we've all seen enough games. Of course, here we go, straight away the boss's orders on to that route. And of course, there is one way to search out the... Oh my goodness. Oh no, it's a power pad putting them back in. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, that's too many bosses orders to lose turn 1. And then I saw the power pad, now we're good. I was talking about the Cram-O-Matic. You need to flip aheads, you need to discard an item card, but it is actually one of the tricks that the Mew players will play just to try and get that double turbo energy guaranteed nice and early.
Yeah, we've seen great conservation of resources here from Pablo. Going to make sure to use those bosses orders early and often, and even draws right back into one off of the power pad. So if the strategy here is to target down Ralts like it looks like, I think we're in for a good show.
Oh, and actually, I didn't even mention the Forest Sealstone, which is another way you can guarantee the double turbo. There's actually 2 on the Genesect, so yeah. Pablo's got the KO this turn. He's got the Forest Sealstone if he wants to use it to get the double turbo. The Mew in the active has got free retreat. There's a V-Star on the bench. Pablo's got everything he needs to have this turn. The deal, and here is the Cram-O-Matic.
Tough.
You don't want to use Forest Sealstone.
Thank you.
You want to save it for as late as you can.
Yep, that is all you're looking for, and does find the double turbo there off of the 3rd Fusion Strike system, thankfully. Now you just get to use 1 for fun, and you have that easy retreat into KO lined up.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good start from Pablo. And, this is kind of what we were talking about, over in the lounge a minute ago. One of the fantastic things about this deck is it works. And it might not have the best matchups. There's a lot of people playing counters to Mew and things like Drapion and along those lines, but Mew just works. This is not an unusual turn 2 for Mew. We see this with the good list and the good players time and time again. So Pedro goes and loses a Routes turn 1. Can we have a turn 2 where we establish some Curlier and really start getting rolling? Maybe even a rare candy if we're feeling a little bit dangerous?
Yeah, potentially. There is always that option. The problem is that you want to start to establish a decent hand size, which is tricky because your opponent will always be using a boss's orders to take down a Ralts potential Curlia, or they're going to use Judge and bring you back down to a small hand. So there certainly is merit to using the Curlia and trying to continue to use refinement and build up the hand. The problem is you need to put pressure on the Mew VMAX or find some way to distract your opponent from these Ralts.
Yeah, and that is the awkward thing. They are very tantalizing targets. We do see the first Curlier being established here, so that refinement is now on the board. Discard a card from your hand, draw 2. It's a little bit upsetting that we haven't been able to see another piece of the V-Union in hand, which is obviously what you're really looking for. That is the ideal for discard. But we do see a Fog Crystal here, which is awesome, because then we're going to see a second Curlier potentially. Oh no, an Energy.
It's really cool to see the Matrix energy being played by Pedro, as that
Love
energy is
it.
probably older than he is.
Oh, yeah, but that is popular energy. Me, I'm a hard gold, soul silver, or a base set man myself, but you're right, that is a beautiful energy that you see a lot of players gravitating towards. The good news is we do have another Curlier there, and we see this sometimes. We see the Fog Crystal, and I'm like, well, that's going to be for a Curlier. Well, no, because he's got an Ultra Ball for the Curlier, but we don't always know that.
Yep, and there's we're going to see now the potential to find even more Pokemon here, as the Mew is going to look for another item and does find the level ball there. So potential to bring back another Ralts would be lovely. Just want to continue to have those options. Even if your opponent does boss a Curlia in this stage of the game, maybe you'll have an opportunity to have double Gardevoir on the next turn with Rare Candy.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. And that's when this Gardevoir deck starts getting scary. When you get a couple of Gardevoir out, you've got a really good single prize attacker that can hit for ridiculous damage. You've got the EX, which is accelerating energy and hitting for decent damage. But it takes time to get there. And this is what a lot of players are trying to decide between. Do you want this deck that is going to set up and be powerful like Gardevoir, or do you want the deck that is just going to zoom like Mew? And we see very different approaches from the players here. As it stands, Pedro is passing. We've just got the two Curlier out. There is no extra routes on the bench. So if I'm Pablo, if I've got access to a boss's orders, I am... Oh, and there is one in hand, actually. So you've got to think it's coming down.
Yeah, definitely. That is going to be a main target. We did see the level ball actually thrown away from Pedro's side with the refinement, and it's because there's a Ralts in the prize cards.
Oh, so that is not ideal.
Early knockout actually was looking for a way to maybe bring back this Pokemon, and it looks like Rescue Carrier is also in the prize cards too. So just plenty of ways that you could potentially keep these Pokemon on board, just not available currently.
No, unfortunately not. We do see that big V-Star animation there. We're using the V-Star power. You know, one of the things, you know, when the Forest Seal Stone got revealed, people were like, really? You know it's just going to be put on Genesect in Mew and make that deck even better. So there is the boss's orders on the Curlier, as expected. And now Pablo is going to be... oh, we do need to switch out, remember, but we got the switch card on the retreat. Now we see the KO on the Curlier. When you're copying Genesect's attack, you cannot do it 2 turns in a row. Oh, actually eyeing up the Echoing Horn and the Path to the Peak.
Yeah, you could potentially put another Pokemon back onto the board. Just depends if there is a non-Ralts basic that you want to take from the discard pile. I'm not sure if we've seen that yet.
Not 100%. We see a power tablet coming down here.
Ooh, okay. Just want to copy the Psychic Leap for the knockout so that you don't have to switch next turn. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Of course, Mew can copy anyone's attack. We actually saw the copy of the Mew V's attack from the bench, so you needed the power tablet to get the KO, but that means Pablo doesn't need to switch in and out or get a second V Max and a second double turbo to attack next turn. So, yeah, that was pretty nicely played. It's little plays like that, I think, which really set the top players like Pablo apart.
Yeah, you have to start thinking about what could be an issue at this point in time, and you are going to be playing down that path, so maybe if your opponent had a judge there, you wouldn't find that switch card or access to another Mew VMAX and Double Turbo, so give yourself the opportunity to just attack with this Pokemon once more in the active spot.
Yeah, absolutely, always a nice thing. So Pedro does seem like we got to... I think this is part 2 of the Mewtwo now. Something we're going to need to keep track of as casters. It can be a little bit of a pain at times.
Yes, I have my tallies over here. That is the second piece there.
And if anyone's wondering, he literally has a piece of paper and a pen. It's an actual physical tally. I didn't realize that was there. So it does look like we got a couple bits of the Mewtwo V Union hitting the discard here. And that is going to be a thing, because when that Mewtwo comes out, Mew can really struggle to KO that Mewtwo V Union. And that gives a lot of comeback potential for Pedro's deck here.
Yes, it is a very large Pokemon, and understandably so. We're going to see a lot of those bosses orders from Pablo's side trying to take prize cards, but you also need to think about, is there ever going to be a way around this Mewtwo V Union, or am I just going to continue to run into that issue of this Pokemon heals for 200, and if I'm not dealing any more than that, I'm never going to get through this wall at some point.
No, your general attack with Mew hits for 210, which most of the time is fine. And we've got power tablets and we've got choice spell, but they run out after a little while. And if you're essentially hitting for 10 damage a turn, we saw that with Klefki yesterday. It did not go well. Of course, Temple of Sinnoh is in play. And double turbo energy, of course, isn't actually hitting 210, it's hitting 190. Double turbo reduces by 20. But right now it doesn't reduce by 20 because actually it's just a colorless energy. Pablo needs rid of that stadium.
Yes, it needs to go away quickly. Of course, there are plenty of ways to do that. You can counter that stadium with your own path to the peak, or we could see maybe one of those lost vacuums to help out here. But we have seen the very awkward quadruple turbo from the Mew players at times to work through this, and it's not ideal, but it's possible.
There is something kind of beautiful about watching Mew get the choice bout and the 4 power tablet, and getting huge KOs. We've seen them getting 2 double turbo energy to get around the Temple of Sinnoh. I kind of love some of the ridiculous things Mew decks sometimes have to do to get over the hump, but it's got these options that not every deck actually has. I don't want to see 2 double turbo on the Mew, although at least it doesn't reduce any damage, so in a way it's kind of a win.
Yeah, it doesn't have to happen this time around, as it looks like Pablo does have the stadium ready to go in hand. But looking at the Gardevoir EX on the other side now, it's looking to get charged up, potentially.
Yeah, the good news is we do finally have a Gardevoir in play. The bad news is there's only one route other than that in terms of this evolution line. So Gardevoir hits for 190, recovers from special conditions, but it does damage itself as you're building up the energy onto it. So this is something we've got to watch. Mew's not getting a KO this turn, but neither's Gardevoir. We're kind of in a 2-hit KO contest at this stage, except Mew's up by a couple of prizes.
Well, take my Manaphy, please, because I need a little more time. Finally found a Ralts and was able to bring that back and have that on the bench, but maybe you don't have the boss?
Maybe. There's always a chance.
Oh, you have the rope. That's almost as bad. At least there is the Radiant Greninja on the other side that could be sacrificed, or even that Mew once more.
Yeah, I think you probably... Oh, I don't know. I think you probably give up the Mew. I'd probably give up the Mew here. It's Mew or Greninja. They are the 2 choices. Pedro saying, you know what, have the Greninja. Mew is at least a nice pivot option because I've got an energy on it ready to retreat in the future. So I get that.
I think the argument here is that you don't want to allow your opponent to copy Psychic Leap once more for a knockout, so you try to make them work for this and have to go through these hit points.
Yeah, that is another thing. Obviously, the much higher hit points, making your opponent actually work for it. It would be it'd be a lot. It'd be like 3 damage modifiers. That's too much.
You don't want to use those when your opponent could pull out the Mewtwo V Union, as it is getting a little bit closer now.
Yeah, you do just have to go for the 210. There's no real viable way around it. But we do see a judge coming down here from Pablo, just trying to really slow Pedro down. Obviously, getting rid of the Greninja will be a nice little bonus here. Just kind of shutting off one of those draw options, which is quite nice. I know it's currently shut off by Path to the Peak, but it means that if Pedro were able to potentially get rid of that, he still wouldn't have the Greninja ready to go. So it just looks like Pedro announces the attack and takes prize number 3.
Pablo, yes.
Did I say Pablo?
You said Pedro.
Oh, I meant Pablo.
It's okay. They're both great players, and I'm sure they'd love to be called the other one at some point in time. Well, if anyone's looking at home and thinking, well, is there a way to knock out that Mew at some point? Maybe we can get a Glistening Droplets or a Choreo or something. The answer is no. Pablo does not play that card, so don't go looking for it. It's just going to be this nice, consistent strategy, just trying to lock out abilities there with the path, use the judge, and try to disrupt and occasionally boss's orders these Pokemon on the bench and try to get these aggressive knockouts.
Yeah, Pablo's Pokemon line is very clean. 4 free Mew, 4 Genesect, that's it. That is literally all you get. It is a Mew Genesect deck. There are no fancy tricks. And I love deck building like this. I'm going to be honest with you, Carl. I really like this is a good deck. I'm going to build it as cleanly and as smoothly as I can because I think if I just set up enough, I am going to win the majority of my games. And it is working for Pablo. We've seen it working for Miraidon with Rob Kimbram as well. And sometimes these decks can work.
Yeah, we saw that in round 10 there with Angelo versus Robert. Both decks were just optimized to perform very well. Didn't care about what their opponents were doing, and they've been finding great success here. So once more, Pablo joining them. And he's going to have to work for this one now as the Temple of Sinnoh comes down. Gardevoir EX ready to attack and try to work the 2-hit knockout, as this Pokemon on the other side cannot currently copy any relevant attacks. We're going to need to see some switching effects or maybe a new Mew VMAX.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, it does seem like we've got a Serena coming down, actually gusting up that Genesect. I kind of like this play. Genesect has 190, Gardevoir does 190, and maybe in the past we saw that these metal Pokemon were resistant to Psychic. That is not the case anymore. So it is going to be quite a clean KO here, and maybe this is the way Pedro goes. I mean, it's hard to KO Mew, so maybe, you know, just go after the Genesect.
Yeah, there were a few ways to go about that. You could even target down the Mew V and try to avoid maybe another Mew V Max coming down, but instead going to target the Genesect, try to maybe limit some of the draw potential here, and this does mean that the Mew V Max has the ability to copy some good attacks once more with Cross Fusion Strike. We'll see if there's the reach now to maybe find some of these power tablets and get the ball rolling.
Yeah, Pablo will need to bump that Stadium, but Pablo plays 4 Path to the Peak and 4 Lost Vacuum. So Pablo's deck shouldn't really be worried about Stadiums. You should, if there's a Stadium like this Temple of Sinnoh bothering you, Pablo should have a way around it. The deck is really built to not worry about your opponent's Stadiums. Now we do see a draw for 5 here. It's Featherball, Boss's Orders, a Judge. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, this isn't exactly what you're looking for. I mean, the boss's orders is okay. That means you could always just buy a little time, knock out a Kirlia, and you know you're not going to get immediately knocked out on the back end from that Gardevoir EX there. So I don't mind that, but we still got to find a few more cards. Definitely got to counter that Stadium, as you were saying.
Yeah, that Stadium's going to be a pain. I mean, you can at least burn the Featherball, just play it for nothing. You could play the Echoing Horn, but like you've said, if there isn't a good option, then there might not be a good one to go for. We do see the Rope here. That's going to put the Manaphy active. Of course, if Pablo is planning to use Boss's Orders anyway, this Rope is kind of irrelevant. It's just getting a card out of your hand. Mew's got free retreat. You're going to boss what you want to KO anyway, so it's not a huge deal here.
Echoing Horn going to try to disrupt a little bit. Fill out the hand here and says, well, it's either Radiant Greninja or Ralts, and I think I know which one you want.
See, I like getting rid of the Echoing Horn because I know how important it is to get that counter Stadium. I don't know if I love giving my opponent Greninja back. That is a very good Pokemon. But then if you get Path to the Peak, then you get to turn off the Greninja anyway. So I think that's probably what Pablo's going for. Like, mate, I'm going to hit the Path. It's fine.
Yep, and sure enough, there it is. It's waiting in the hand. That was path number 3, I believe. Now the only decision is Boss's Orders or Judge. Let's go with a little bit of disruption as we probably knock out an irrelevant Manaphy.
Yeah, I don't mind the irrelevant knockout here because, you know, Pablo is playing 3 Boss's Orders and a Power Pad, but that's still not infinite. We've seen the Power Pad being used quite early on in the game, so there comes a point where you just need to take these prizes. It's an easy prize on a Manaphy combined with a Judge and a Path to the Peak, and actually, you know what? Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's just like the best hand you could find, is all the energies along with a Lost Vacuum and the final counter Stadium. That is exactly what Pablo wanted to see there off of the Judge to 4.
Oh, no.
I mean, this is fantastic. Was that Boss's Orders even added off the prize cards? Because with 2 prizes left, even if we saw the Mewtwo V Union, you could just target down the Gardevoir EX and maybe work a knockout on that Pokemon instead.
Yeah, and there's always going to be the opportunity for potential Rope plays because there's 2 Rope in the list. There might be 1 left, but I like Mewtwo V Union, but there comes a point where it's too late, where your opponent's taken too many prizes, they've got too much momentum, and they can essentially ignore Mewtwo V Union. And that's the point, right? If Mewtwo V Union comes out, it needs to be at a point where you have to deal with it, but you can't. And then you win the game, basically. If it's ignorable and you can just go around it, it kind of defeats the object. And I don't think we've even got half of the bits of Mewtwo V Union. So I do think we are going to be heading to game 2 quite quickly. It looks like Pablo has navigated this very, very nicely. And we do see a Boss's Orders onto a Gen. Is there any way Pedro just goes, tee-hee-hee, I KO 3 Genesect and win?
Well, I mean, that's looking like the strategy right now. Your options are either pass and hope your opponent didn't find the energy or a switching card, and then maybe you buy a little time to load up a Pokemon like a Mewtwo V Union, or knock this Pokemon out and hope that there are no power tablets or ways to disrupt anything on the other side. And looks like just going to go for the prize cards, really hope not to see those cards, and Pablo is going to draw as many cards as possible with 2 Genesect Vs now.
It is worth noting that the Pedro here plays 1 Serena, 1 Boss's Orders, and 1 Palpad. And we've seen the Serena and the Boss's Orders. So if Pedro wanted to go down this gusting route and wanted to gust up a Genesect or a Mew for the KO, would have to use Palpad to get them back in and then draw into them, which is a very awkward way round of doing it. Having said that, I don't think Pedro's going to be going for a Mew anytime soon. So I think this might be the best option. I'm just not sure it's a great option.
Well, not sure if I have the official counts of it just yet. I'm going to look at the prize cards. I don't think I see the tablet. If it was only just 1 power tablet in the discard pile, then there is potential to go for all 3 right here to try to take the knockout. The choice belt is not providing an additional effect as that Pokemon is an EX. And we're going to look through. Pablo's going to count up. It's like 12 or 13 cards at that stage. Can burn the entire hand here and draw up. If you could burn once more, then maybe you see all of the cards possible with both Genesects, and you can get the job done.
That would be good. I mean, you're hitting for 190 at the moment. You add 3 power tablets, and then it goes up to 280 or 290. I think it would just about do it, because you're reducing 20 from the double turbo, but there's already 40 on the Gardevoir. So we do see a Tails on Cramomatic. That would have been pretty gosh darn good.
Well, the other strategy is it's unlikely that we get all of these cards right now. So let's just work the Roxanne in. Hopefully my opponent doesn't have one of those gusting effects, and maybe we can get the job done that way.
That would work, right? And I've just done the maths while you were talking there. It's hitting 190 with the 3 power tablets is 280. Add the 40 on Gardevoir would be 320. It would just get over the line with the 3 remaining power tablets. But I think you're right here. We go for the Roxanne, and hey, maybe you just draw the 3 power tablets and win.
It does not hurt to try. It's not like the Gardevoir's going anywhere right now, and you still have a Boss's Orders left in your deck. You could easily find that maybe on the next turn and take these last 2 prize cards. So let's see if it's there.
Yeah, what have we got? Oh. We got 1 power tablet. It is not enough for the time being.
So close.
Yeah, that would be. But it's what I was saying earlier. Mew can do this. Mew can just be like, what if I add 90 to 120 damage and just get a giant KO on a Pokemon that should have been out of reach? Now, is that Path to the Peak that is in play, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that is unfortunately going to turn off that Fusion Strike system. So it looks like the reaching is out here. So yeah, it does look like we're going to see not a KO, but just an I've put you down to a low hand with Roxanne. I'm going to smash with Mew. And I just don't think you're going to be able to get around it. If Pedro can gust this turn, Pedro will get a very improbable victory, but oh, there's not a huge amount going on. We see the refinement. The thing is, even if you draw the power pad, you've still got to draw back into the card. Oh, we've got the power pad in hand.
The power pad, yeah. we're not done yet.
But the problem is, what are we doing in terms of drawing cards? We've used refinement, and Greninja's shut off by Path to the Peak. So even if we power pad the Serena and the Boss's Orders back in, is there any way to draw them? I'm not seeing anything on Pedro's board. What have I missed?
If there is a Gardevoir eventually, maybe you could use Shining Arcana and draw into it.
Oh, but then there's no Gardevoir and there's no draw.
I'm not seeing it then.
I don't think we've actually got a way to draw any cards. Oh, that's a Sky Sealstone. If that was a Forest Sealstone...
Well, there's no V either to...
I mean, okay, that too. But still, I got very excited for a moment then. Pedro instead just copying Pablo's homework, going for the Roxanne here. And essentially, it's use Roxanne, put Pablo down to a 2-card hand with the Path in play, turning off the Genesect, and hoping that Pablo has to take a single prize KO.
He drew Boss's Orders Lost Vacuum.
What?
That's not okay.
That is not okay. Oh, that's like the best case scenario. Yeah, Pablo's won this game.
I mean, his deck is like 6 cards, so and all of them are really good at this point. But wow. Okay, are you ready for this one?
I'm ready. We finally see Mewtwo v Union. It's going to be irrelevant because Pablo's got Boss's Orders in hand, which is a little bit sad. But we finally see the Mewtwo v Union actually getting into the active spot, which is rather lovely, using the ability, using the attack, which is getting some, charging up some energy onto there. Gain. There we go, Union gain, getting a couple extra energy, but it's all irrelevant because we got Boss's Orders onto the Gardevoir EX, and Pablo takes a very long game 1 where Pablo was in charge like the whole game, and yet Pedro had a chance right to the end to steal it.
Yeah, I mean, that is the power of this deck. We've been talking about the Mewtwo V Union and its potential, and it could have almost gotten the job done. There was no way to really knock it out. There weren't enough power tablets at that point in time, and if there was no boss's orders, we could have just continuously seen this Pokemon heal itself until Pablo ran out of cards. So there is a looming threat on the other side at all times. The good news for Pablo, that took 29 minutes.
Yeah, and I love winning a long game one. Winning a long game one is great because the chances of your opponent winning games 2 and 3 is very, very low. So the worst case scenario is a tie. Most of the time, we've seen it go the other way, of course, but it does mean that you don't need to finish game 2. You can play, if we get down to the wheeze and we get down to the, the end of the game, Pablo can basically play keep away and just try and stop Pedro actually winning here. But of course, as we've been talking about, we are cutting from 158 day 2 players down to 8. We are cutting 150 people out today. So I think Joe reckoned it was 12 wins. It was 36 match points we were really aiming for here to be safe. 35 might get you there. So you don't want to tie with 1 match point. You want the 3 match points for a win.
Yep, with the level of players that we have in the tournament in general, seems like it lines up fairly well with some of the regionals we've been having in North America. There are just so many competitors, but this is going to be a very large one. So 36 points definitely sounds like the mark to make.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a goal like that, but 12 wins out of 15 rounds is, I mean,
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
I know, right? But when you get around to top 8, we are going to have such a good top 8. Like, everyone is going to properly earn their way in, and that makes me happy. Oh my goodness, 2 routes, 2 Curlier. When you lose game 1, those are not the prizes you want to see for game 2.
You should take a look at the hand.
Oh no, is the hand bad, is it?
He's almost assembled the Mewtwo V Union.
What?
He's got 3 pieces.
Oh my goodness. I mean, nothing will be as bad as a hand Joe and I saw in the previous round.
Oh yeah, the 5 energies.
5 energy recycler mana fade. Just like, that is as bad an opening hand as you will ever find.
Yep.
But prizes wise, 2 routes and 2 Curlier. And that is one of the things when you build your deck entirely around the stage 2 line, if you see bad prizes for that stage 2 line, that can really hamper you for the entire game.
Yeah, this is a world of pain that Pedro's in currently, as he's trying to figure out how in the world I play this game when this is the most important Pokemon in my deck. This line needs to show up in at least 2 to 3 pieces in every single matchup, and I've got a Ralts and an Energy.
I mean, at least you're going first, and going first is absolutely huge because it means Pablo's not going to get a KO on a routes turn 1. This isn't a fusion energy list. There will be no turn 1 KO from Pablo because we saw in the previous game, Pablo knows the score here. Pablo knows I need to go after your routes, and Pedro knows that Pablo knows. So if you've got 2 in the prizes and you lose 1 early to a KO, that is devastating. Pedro needs to get these evolved as fast as possible. And honestly, you need some early prizes to try and liberate some from the prize cards.
Well, look at this, Pablo. So, all right, I need to make sure that every draw I have here is live. I'm even going to use a Lost Vacuum on a path and throw away my own Choice Belt because any of those cards would be atrocious here. I need to find Battle VIP Pass, Featherball, anything. Let's just get it going.
Yeah, anything just to get rolling a little bit here. Choice Belt could, yeah, I suppose it gets you over the hump against the Zacian V, but yeah, it's not the most important card in the list in this particular matchup.
Especially not attached to a Genesect.
I mean, yeah, that's it.
Whoa.
What do we say? What do we say?
He just drew a Battle VIP Pass.
Oh my goodness. And a Featherball as well. That's going to get a Mew, which is just... And the thing is, it's not just a Mew, it's another Fusion Strike Pokemon, which means every Genesect is drawing an extra card here. You don't necessarily want 3 Mew down, honestly.
Yeah. 2
is usually what you're going for here. In a deck like Pablo's, 4 Genesect, 2 Mew is the ideal. But to try and draw some extra cards in the early game, I think I might allow it.
Absolutely, yeah. I see Ralts Energy Pass on the other side, and I'm feeling pretty comfortable as long as I just throw down some Pokemon and draw a lot of cards.
Yeah, and that's the thing, you've been given information by your opponent's bad start. So you're going, it is okay, playing the game with 3 Genesect. Oh my goodness, and we do see a Battle VIP Pass off the first Genesect. That is going to get the 3rd Genesect. And okay, fine, it might be 3 Mew, 3 Genesect. This is still a very nice turn one.
Yes, I mean, if Pedro was able to set up like we saw last time and start to target down these Genesect Bees, then maybe this would be an issue. But I'm not worried at all right now. This looks great. The rest of the hand is also very strong. There is the Mew V Max, there's the double turbo energy, so attacks will be online. All you have to do is protect this Pokemon for now, and you're going to be in a great spot.
Yeah, I love this start from Pablo here. It's everything you need. You've got the Genesect, you've got the energy, you've got the Mew. And even this, it's a tiny little play, but just getting that little bit of retreat, which is fantastic. So, yeah, I absolutely love it. This is good.
Double Gardevoir Ultra Ball. That is not the hand you want. And looks like we're going to see Serena draw 3 as an understanding that we can't work like this. And that's 3 Ultra Ball in hand, too. These are just the clunkiest draws we've seen in a hot minute.
Oh, no. Oh. This is not an ideal situation at all. It's not what you need. You need to be getting set up here. That is very, very, very important. You need to be getting set up. You need to be rolling. So, yeah, just having that hand, you can't have bad prizes and a bad hand while your opponent just starts rushing. It's just too awkward, quite frankly. You need to get rolling.
Well, trying to put on some pressure potentially now, as that's about the only game plan there is. It's just keep attacking, and hopefully we see Pablo on the other side slip up. But now the only decision to make is, do you go after this Zacian V or Boss's orders? Let's get rid of the Curlia, please, as that's the only potential to really see a game-winning play on the other side from Pedro. And we know that Pedro is now down 3-3 Ralts and Curlia.
Oh, that's just, it's so hard when you're playing a deck which relies on a stage 2 line. And, you know, we've been comparing this a lot to the Zoroark Gardevoir deck we saw at Oceania 2018. But the big difference with that was you had the Zoroark line and you had the Gardevoir line. Here, it's all wrapped up into one, and it means that when you have those prizes and you have those KOs, it goes bad very, very quickly, especially when you're one game down before you've even started. Now the Mew comes back into the active, and it's just looking not good for Pedro.
Well, if you're going to draw a card, I'm sure Rescue Carrier is a pretty decent one. Get to add the 1/1 right back in, but then you have to judge away the Curlia. So win some, lose some. Zacian V is probably going to have to attack into this Mew V Max, and I don't like that one bit.
No, I don't really like that at all. It's, yeah, I mean, look, at least there's going to be an attack from Pedro. That's a win. But I'm afraid this looks like the kind of game where it is a kind of, you've got to take those little victories where you can, because unfortunately, having lost game 1, going into game 2 here, and look, some games just aren't your game. Sometimes you start off and it is just not working. I think this is one of those games. And I don't mind when it's game 1, but when it's game 2 and you lose game 1, this stresses me out, Kyle.
You don't like when you judge yourself and draw energy, double battle VIP pass, and a chicken wing?
No, I actually don't, quite frankly.
Okay, well, in that case, you don't want to be Pedro Pertusi, because that's what we're looking at. There's nothing going on there. By the end of this turn, it is very likely either going to be a knockout on a Ralts or the Zacian V falling. Either one is basically game-breaking.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There is no good option for Pedro here. There's no sacrificial Manaphy. Now, I personally love the escape rope into the routes because you can take a couple hits off a Zacian. It really doesn't matter. Even if a prize or 2 is taken, it is not going to really open up Pedro's deck. The deck is too slow at this point. We see a heads-on Cramomatic from Pablo, which at this stage might just be a little bit like... I mean, imagine you're sitting there with your Pedro, you're drawing this badly, and then your opponent hits heads on Cramomatic.
Yeah, well, this opens up the play where you can go find the power tablet and then psychic leap all the damage that your opponent just did.
Oh no, that's just mean at this point.
Insult to injury here. I mean, there was also a world where Pedro just doesn't have an energy next turn and wouldn't have been able to knock out the Mew VMAX anyways.
Oh my goodness.
It's brutal over here.
And here's the thing, like we talked about having free Mew, and generally free Mew is not what you're looking for. But now, because there's a Mew on the bench, it means you can copy that Psychic Leap, and you have the option of shuffling the Pokemon into your deck, which means all that damage goes away, but you've still got a fresh Mew VMAX sitting there as well. And, you know, you've taken another prize, that's good. You've taken out the final routes, that's good. And you've basically just undone all the damage Pedro did on the previous turn, that's good.
You know what's not good?
What's not good?
Radiant Greninja into attack. That's it.
Oh my goodness.
There's nothing. There's no energy. There's no way to draw. Pedro's going to be a good sport about it and continue to fight the good fight. Has dealt arguably more damage this game. That's a cool stat that you could bring up on TCG Live.
Like I say, games like this, it is the little victories. Now, we do see a judge from Pablo. Good news is it cannot be as bad for Pedro as the previous judge, so that's quite nice. But I do think we are sitting at a stage here where Pablo is just running away with this a little bit too much. We need a single modifier here. And choice belt would actually do it, although I don't think we've got any choice belt left at this stage.
I mean, we need energy. Let's get that first.
I mean, I just assume he's going to get it.
Okay.
Power tablet
okay.
and a Forest Seal Stone to guarantee the energy. So now we're going to see the KO on the Zacian. And
no, he just draws the double turbo.
Oh my god! See, sometimes you just got to kind of laugh about this because you're having the worst possible game. But while you're having the worst possible game, your opponent is hitting absolutely every card they need every turn. We're now down to just 2 prizes remaining for Pablo. And Pedro at this stage, there is no comeback.
Yes. I've
seen some great comebacks on stream over the years. This will not be one of those games.
It's like we're laughing not at Pedro. This is just the fact that he has run into the worst circumstances possible, and it is so unfortunate to watch. He's of course going to try. He's got 2 more prize cards, 1 more prize card that they can give up at this stage, and we're going to see the results come down. Maybe there's a world where you can rare candy this thing into Gardevoir EX, knock out the only double turbo, and your opponent never sees that again. You also need to Lost Vacuum a Forest Seal Stone. I don't think that's in the deck, or we're in trouble.
No, unfortunately not. That is, and like you say, this is just one of those games we've kind of got to laugh. It's the worst case scenario while your opponent is drawing absolutely everything they could possibly need, and
he takes the Battle VIP pass.
So he uses Mew, and the item cards you get to take is the Battle VIP pass, which of course is just not what you're looking for. There is a level ball for a Curlier here, which is quite nice. Of course, that refinement ability is absolutely spectacular. We love that refinement ability. But the problem is we love it when we've got a couple Curlier out and a Gardevoir, and we're just kind of working towards getting that Mewtwo V union and really starting to establish our board quite nicely. We don't love it when we can't even evolve it this turn. So I think it's an energy from a Fog Crystal. A Mew doesn't even have enough energy to attack. It's a 2 energy attack.
It's not even a good attack either.
No, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying just for the sake of having an attack to use. Yes.
the moral victory. Yeah. Well, looks like we're going to see a boss's orders on the other side, and that would have easily cleared things up there. Zacian V going to be knocked out, and that is going to close things out here as Pablo Meza taking a 2-0 victory in a very important game that's going to lead them a little bit closer to the top 8 potentially.
Yeah, and that's a big win for Pablo. Is that win number 11? Am I remembering that correctly?
Pablo was 10-2, so
yeah,
it's 11-2.
So that is win number 11, which should mean 1 more win. 2 win-and-ins, 1 win of the next 2 games. And the thing is, whereas you get to the end of, the end of day 1, we talked about not wanting to intentionally draw because you need those points to get yourself from day 2 into top 8. You would better believe that when you're locked in for top 8, you will intentionally draw as much as you can. You just want a bit of a break and refresh yourself to getting into top 8. So if you can get yourself locked in with a game to spare, and Pablo could be in that situation, that is a beautiful place to be.
Yep, I wish that very much for my friend, as that is the ideal place to be. It looks like we have a couple other players that are going to